Okay, so
No.
I'll just jump straight into it then, shall
All right. I was going to welcome you, but by all means, jump right.
I?
No, that's all right. Welcome everybody to the TESOL International Conference and to this session entitled Virtual Exchange Effects on Motivation for Learning English. I'm very happy to hand over now to our presenter, Matthew Skidmore. Matthew, take it away.
Thank you very much. Well, hi everybody. Thank you for coming, first of all. So I am Matt. I'm from England, but I live and work in South Korea in a university here. And I'm going to just share my screen and let's get started, shall we? So, yeah, I'm talking about virtual exchange and motivation for language learning. This is the table of contents. This is what we'll be talking about today. A little bit of the terminology and literature review and the theoretical framework, talking about the project that myself and some other teachers are working on, the study we conducted, and some results and conclusions. Now, a few things. So I'm going to leave some space at the end for questions. But if there's anything that is really confusing to you, or you really don't understand what I'm explaining, or you have like a burning question, feel free to interrupt. I don't mind at all. I also tend to speak incredibly quickly during presentations. So this will be over in about 15 minutes or so. So feel free to interrupt at any time. Although there is some like technical stuff that we'll talk about, I'll try and keep it to a minimum so we can get to like the real meat and potatoes of what the study is. So first of all, terminology. When I say virtual exchange, there is a whole like satellite of terms that come around with virtual exchange, like telecollaboration, intercultural exchanges, e-tandem coil. All of them have nuanced differences. Some of them I will use interchangeably, especially telecollaboration and online intercultural exchange. What I'm generally referring to is this from Robert O'Dowd, the engagement of groups from different countries or different cultures interacting in collaboration under the guidance of facilitators or teachers. So that's what we're referring to when we say virtual exchange, or what I'm referring to. There's been a number of studies in the last probably 10 years or so, or further, about online intercultural exchanges or virtual exchanges. Most of them seem to come out with positive results, not all of them. Some of them have some negative results based on proficiency differences, some unfortunately reinforcing stereotypes because of misunderstandings and miscommunications. But generally, the findings in terms of virtual exchanges are quite good. Things like cultural acclimatization, learner autonomy, willingness to communicate, even listening skills with different accents. Somewhat tenuously, intercultural competence has come up, but also a recurring theme is on confidence and motivation. A lot of studies say that their virtual exchange has improved the motivation of students, but not really how. So this is one thing I really wanted to look at, is how is motivation affected? In what way? Specifically what? So the theoretical framework that I'm looking at here is the L2 motivational self system. I noticed with interest that actually at 5 p.m. today in a different room, there is another discussion about the L2 motivational self system. I'm sure that presenter will explain it far better than I can, but as a very brief overview, the L2 motivational self system was created by this man, Zoltan Dorné. If you know anything about motivation, you've probably heard his name before. And it takes the kind of previous classic view of integrativeness and instrumentality, and it kind of revolutionized the whole thing, mixed it in with research from psychology, possible selves research particularly. What it basically says is there are certain elements of motivation that interact with each other. There's a wonderful SEM model, which I'm not going to go into here, but these are the elements that play a key part in motivation. I'll talk about these in more detail a little bit later on. This is just to kind of introduce the framework. Also, because this was a global study, an intercultural study, we also integrated international posture. which was a concept that was created by called Yoshima in 2002, which is about trying to capture the general attitude to the wider world from students. This has been used a few times with varying results of accuracy, but it's generally seen to be quite valid and useful for explaining motivation. So this was integrated into the study as well. We'll talk about how a little bit later. The project itself, I am lucky enough to be part of a project called Connect with a few other teachers worldwide, which is an intercultural exchange project. This particular study was last semester, and this was in autumn 2021, where we had 11 countries participating from all over the world, from all continents. We had about 188 students. It lasted for 10 weeks. So we had a group of 5 students together for 5 weeks from different countries. Then they changed groups and changed countries, and we're together for another 5 weeks. We call this kind of a semi-synchronous intercultural exchange because it's about group chatting rather than message boards or live meetups. There are some live meetups, but it's mostly around group chatting. So it can be synchronous or it can be asynchronous, depending on how the timing works out. We gave them some kind of vague or general expectations. So about 20 messages per week we expected, as well as attempting to meet up 2 or 3 times live over the course of 5 weeks. Just to note that we are currently doing this again, and it's just grown even more. So we now have, I think, 14 countries and about 300 students going through a similar process at the same time. We used the Telegram app, if you guys know it. It's similar to like WhatsApp or Kakao or Line or those similar SNS kind of apps. The instruments we used for the study itself was based on another instrument that was created by Taguchi et al. In a 2009 study, which was itself based on Dornier's motivational self system. So they took certain they took the constructs from the MAL2 motivational self system, created items within those constructs, and gave those out. But we dropped certain parts during the piloting. We piloted the questionnaire to 8 students, and based on their responses, we got rid of the attitudes to the L2 community section and the attitudes towards English classes, because they were seen as irrelevant. This wasn't about an English class they were taking, and there actually wasn't any L2 community members in the group at all. Everybody was non-native by design. So we kind of got rid of those, and instead we integrated the international posture questions into the questionnaire. These are the constructs that we attempted to measure. So we have criterion measures. This is kind of getting the baseline of the students' feelings of confidence about their own ability. How do they feel about themselves compared to other speakers of English in this case? Ideal L2 self. This is one of the core parts of the L2 motivational self system. This refers to how strongly and how realistically a student of a different language can imagine themselves in the future speaking this language in everyday life. It could be in the workplace or traveling. Can they vividly imagine it? And do they want to close the gap between where they currently are and where they want to be in this ideal L2 self? The next construct was the ought to self. This is like feelings of obligation. Like my parents expect me to study, so I should study. My teachers will be disappointed if I don't, so I feel like I should study. Then we have the instrumentality. Instrumentality is basically external factors, like I want to get promoted at my job, so I'll study to get that, or I want to get a good grade. Prevention being kind of the inverse of that. I don't want to get a bad grade, or I don't want to be like lose the chance for promotion. And then we had the international posture items in there as well. So the students were asked to reflect on their answers to items before and after taking part in the Connect project. So the questionnaire itself was broken down into two sections. One is before Connect, one is after Connect, very clearly differentiated. And we also added one open question at the end, which is, did participating in Connect affect your motivation? What do you think? Please give us some insights into your thinking. The questionnaires were given in their native languages, translated and back translated to make sure they were clear. And we got 52 respondents out of 188, which is generally seen to be acceptable for this kind of study, to be representative. For those who are statistically minded, we did validity and reliability tests. So we ran a Cronbach's alpha to test for reliability. As you can see, everything came up okay there, pretty high scores. The lowest being international posture with 0.7, but that's still acceptable, generally speaking. Anything above like 0.65 or 0.7 is okay. And then for validity, we did the Pearson's R2 Sigma. Again, everything came out okay, but international posture came out just about okay. So I think that kind of signifies that international posture itself it's kind of circling an idea without being able to fully grasp it, but it is quite an intangible idea, is how you feel about the wider world. It does just enough of a good job for us to accept it into this study, I think. So the results, the quantitative results first. So all of the questions were taken on a Likert scale between 1 to 6 and then averaged out. And these are what we get. So first, in the criteria measures, how the students feel about themselves right now, their own ability and their confidence. A 10% increase from over these 10 weeks, which is fantastic. The fact that the students managed to interact and they built confidence from it was a really, really rewarding feeling when we saw these results. And then the ideal L2 self, their ability to picture themselves in the future, being able to use English fluently and naturally, again, grew 9%. I mean, it was pretty high to begin with, but still that 9% it's a significant increase. What was quite interesting to us is this decrease in motivation from the ought to self, from these feelings of obligation. I'm kind of skipping to the end a little bit here, but what this seems to show is a shift of motivation from students who are no longer, well, I wouldn't say no longer, but seemingly less motivated to study English because of classes or feelings that they should, and to actually wanting to be able to speak English. Instrumentality had also some smaller increases. Also this international posture, this attitude to a wider world also saw a pretty significant increase. This is something I'm going to look at a little bit more later on as I look into intercultural competence and such. These are results from the quantitative tests. The qualitative replies, we took some thematic analyses. So we had 3 big themes and then sub-themes within that. So confidence, discrepancy between their ideal ability and their current ability, and how they apply their English, the things that came up. And if we have a look at the larger scores, what we found is that the students found that their current ability of English was sufficient to communicate, which points towards that increasing confidence, I think. And here we have these two, this change in motivation from functional to pragmatic, and the wanting to study for global communication. Again, it points to that idea that they're moving away from being like feeling obliged to study and wanting to study for a global communication purposes, which is pretty great. I took a lot of quotes from the qualitative aspects. I'm not going to read them all because I hate just reading off of slides, but all of these point to the same idea of I want to speak to people. I now want to study English because I want to have global communication skills. Let me point out, maybe not on this page. Talking to people from different countries inevitably excited me, increased my desire to learn more English. I felt obligated to learn English or wanted to keep doing what I was good at, but while participating in the project, I was motivated to communicate internationally and have fun experiencing the wider world. I swear I did not write these. I am honestly taking them from what the students said. There's a couple of caveats that come along with this, I think. And we'll put this in the conclusions as well. One of the caveats is that it's only the students who really engage with these kind of projects that actually get things out of them. Students who do engage in these intercultural interactions can get many positives in language learning, as we've seen from the previous studies and from this. Two of key of those are motivation and confidence. And as I said, there seems like there's a shift in motivation from obligation towards global communication. But one kind of personal observation is that those who are willing to engage, who want to engage in these intercultural exchanges, they get positive outcomes. And it seems like it is worth investigating anyway, if these engagements act as a first step towards an actual measurable intercultural communicative competence, a measurable and accessible step. That's something I'm going to be looking at in the next couple of months, hopefully. But I think that's a really exciting and interesting development that's something worth looking into a little bit more. I have tons and tons of bibliography. I'm not entirely sure anybody really wants to learn them, but if you do want a copy of these slides, I'm happy to provide them at any time. And there we go, 16 minutes. Hey.
Good job. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for listening, everybody.
We already have a quick question there in the chat from Roxy. She wants to know if she can have access to your interview questions.
Absolutely. I'll drop my email and I'll happily send them to you if you send me a message. There you go. That's my email address. If you want to see the slides or the questions or any of the many appendices that I have to this, drop me a line and I'll get back to you.
Are there any questions, comments, thoughts?
I have a question, if I may.
Yes, Stuart, by all means.
It was a very interesting presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Certainly very encouraging to think that we can increase motivation in this way. As to your last comment, and I'm sorry if I've simply missed the point here, you said that it was the willingness to engage which kind of contributed to people getting positive outcomes. Was there any sense you got that there were people who were relatively unwilling to engage and that as a result, they didn't quite get what they could out of it? Do you have any reason to think that?
I absolutely. I think anybody who's gone through, done any of these kind of telecollaborative events know that there are certain students who just don't want to do it for whatever purposes. Maybe it's they're not really engaged and their teacher is making them do it, or they kind of didn't get past that first hurdle of being able to interact, or something just came up else and their attention shifted. I think those students do miss out on the full experience. The students who do fully engage are the ones who get the most out of it, I think. But we've run this project 5 times now, and there's always a disparity between those who engage and those who don't. We try and boost engagement as much as possible. That's always a priority, but there's always going to be some students who don't get there. Rochelle.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
All right, great. Sorry. This is actually a follow-up to what you were just talking about. Sorry, I don't know why my video, oh, there it is. So I also do a COIL exchange. I've been doing one with Canadian students and my Japanese students. The Canadian students are not language learners. They are native speakers. So it's a much different sort of exchange. However, like I was wondering, with 188 students, how much is the teacher involved in making sure students stay on task or that they're following up? Because you did say like it's up to how much the students engage themselves, but did they need a little bit of pushing and prodding from the teachers, or like they just naturally did that themselves?
So what we do, we're quite fortunate in that we use Telegram. In Telegram's kind of open source, so a lot of people put a lot of work into developing like bots for Telegram. So we actually have one statistics bot in each room that scrapes all of the information and tells us how many messages each student is contributing, what percentage of the conversation they're having, and we can export all of the chats and files so we can keep those on record as well. So that every weekend, we gather up all these statistics, and then we start looking at like, okay, who is really not engaging? We send them a direct message. Hey, is everything okay? What can we do? If we don't get a response, then we contact their home teacher. So there is like a way of a format of going through to try and encourage those students a little bit more and tracking their progress.
Okay. So then again, with 188 students, like, were there just several teachers in charge of the whole project and then individual teachers for the classes, or I'm not sure how that works?
Yeah, totally. So what we have is we have like a core group who started this whole project. And then we have like affiliate institutions from around the world. So there's like 5 of us in what we call our project development team.
Right.
And we're the ones who kind of organize all of the groupings and contain everything. And then the affiliate groups just bring their teachers in and bring their students in, sorry. We do all the groupings. And we've gone to the point now, which is fantastic, where we're starting to involve the students from previous projects in the running of the project itself. So we've got some of them who were here last semester as mentors for this semester, who are watching some of the groups, helping them develop and grow in that way.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Yeah. It's really, it's great the amount of involvement those students are having now.
Right. All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
If anybody, I mean, if nobody has any questions right now, but if you think of anything, please do feel free to email me at any time.
George does. He just had his mic muted.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Garth. Yes, Matthew, that was fabulous. Love to see a whole presentation on what you were just discussing in response to the last question, because that sounds like an amazing thing, and it's something that I'm striving towards, is like, providing students with feedback, because they do need that push in these collaborative situations, especially when they're working with people that they don't know necessarily, and it's asynchronous, I guess. So I'd love to hear a full presentation about that at some point in time.
And again, if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to email me. I'm always happy to talk about this to anybody who will listen. So also the next speaker in this group, Eng Hai, is also working with me in this project. So he'll talk about this even more, I think.
Yeah, and Eng Hai's queued up, ready to go, right?
I have shared the Discord link in the chat. If anybody has any comments or questions, they can also pop over there and continue the discussion.
Yeah, I'll jump into Discord as well, just to be around.
Perfect. Well, thank you. That was actually really interesting, and I love the fact that you've got returning students who are acting as mentors. Do you think that might alter the quality of the engagement?
I think it does. And actually, one of the things that kind of point towards, I don't want to say the success, because that sounds like we're bigging up a little bit too much, but we have, from each country now, we have students who are asking to come back next semester. So they're bringing their experience from last time and helping the new students as well to kind of engage with it. So this kind of returning students, they're acting like super students and mentors, which is really helping everybody get on board. So I do think it definitely helps.
Wonderful. That means a lot of success and for the program in the future. Continuity.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and everybody else. I hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference and take full advantage of all of the opportunities that you have here and tomorrow. Thank you, Matthew.